Why don't we get started? Because could be some good discussion this morning. Lots of issues there. I'm Jack Walsh. I'm co-chair and from Derby, and we'll go around and do some introductions based on my screen. And let's see, Christine.
Hi there. I'm Christine. I'm an environmental planner from the Naugatuck+Valley Council of Governments.
Mark. You're muted, Mark.
Sorry about that. I thought I had checked and it was off. Anyway, good morning. Mark Nielsen, NVCOG.
Okay, Jerry.
Jerry Lukowski, Public Works Director, Watertown.
Okay, Kate.
Kate Pipa, a Senior Transportation Planner at the Naugatuck+Valley Council of Governments. Good morning.
Morning. Paul.
Yes, good morning. Paul Benevich, Watertown Town Engineer.
Okay, Brian.
Hi, Brian Searwich, Economic Development Commissioner at Town of Seymour.
Vince. Vince, you're muted. All right, let me move on. We'll come back. Anne Marie.
Anne Marie Dragonis, first selectwoman for the town of Seymour.
Congratulations on your reelection.
Thank you. I may be stepping out and Kurt Miller may be stepping in for my meeting. I have something I have to attend to for Veterans Day.
Okay. Judy.
Good morning, Judy Mancini. I'm advisor to Mayor Paul Pernerusky, City of Waterbury.
Rich.
Hello, Rich Donovan, Transportation Planning Director for NVCOG.
Hey, Rich, you owe me a telephone call.
Yes, I have a couple of questions for you, so we can chat after this.
Okay, James.
Jim Stewart, Naugatuck Public Works Engineering.
Okay. Let's see, Mark. No. There we go.
Yeah, Mark Jewell, VHB.
Okay. Richard.
Richard Crowther, NVCOG, Mapping Data Technology.
You're muted, Richard. Maybe he's not there. And okay, Rista.
Rista Malanka, co-chair of the NRG and director of economic and community development for Northwest Hills Council of Governments.
Okay. Desiree.
Desiree Blanchard, communications and engagement coordinator for NVCOG.
And of course, the master of all things, Greenway, Aaron.
Aaron Budris, NVCOG.
Okay, got a full agenda, so let's jump right in. And of course, we're all still kind of shocked. Oh, wait a minute. Vince, we missed you before. You're muted, Vince. You want to introduce yourself? Oh, maybe he's not hearing us. Okay, Aaron, are you going to take on the raise grant?
No, it's probably.
Yeah, Mark could probably talk about it.
Okay. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, as you all know, we had been awarded about 5.2 million under the federal RAISE program to do a full design of roughly 12 miles of the NRG between Greenfield and Naugatuck to Elm Street in Thomaston. It would have resulted in a total of 16 miles being, built, designed, and ready to be built. Unfortunately, that program or that grant was canceled. So we're now scrambling to try to figure out how to put the pieces together. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to move as quickly or as effectively as we would have under RAISE, because it would have consolidated a number of projects into one design and actually been able to allowed us to actually build or design things as a single unit or project. Now we're back to piecemeal, and we're using Rec Trail money awards to 4 communities to serve as a non-federal match. And now those communities are now back to, doing the design on their own through rec trails. Unfortunately, the rec trails money wasn't sufficient to actually design the sections for which they were awarded. It's going to be a real scramble to try to get projects moved. The unfortunate part of this cancellation is I think we had 5 projects that were pretty much ready to proceed in advance to construction once the design was fully completed and bid documents were put together. So now the funding for those projects is sort of on hold again, and Aaron will go into more about our thoughts about how to proceed. But again, right now we're back into doing things piecemeal, scrambling, and it's going to take us a hell of a lot longer to advance things than it would have under this program. So nothing good is coming out of this cancellation, and that's where we're at, and it's unfortunate. I can answer any questions that anybody might have, but it's sort of pretty self-explanatory.
Mark, I have a question. This is Rista.
Hey, Rista.
I know that you can't, this is not necessarily about the project itself, but more about the funding. A couple different places I've been, people have been hearing about this and concerned that other funding is going to be revoked. Do you think it's, because this program in particular or this project in particular, did you get any feedback as to why this happened?
No, no, we didn't get any feedback other than what was included in the cancellation notice that basically said it didn't meet with the administration's priority of supporting vehicle travel under a multimodal program. So you figured it out. I think I don't think a lot of other programs may be as in danger as this was for multimodal trails. Again, it's the type of project that really caused the cancellation. If we were proposing the design of a 4-lane expressway through this corridor, it would have been funded. But the fact that we were looking at a multimodal transportation trail, that just doesn't, it's not consistent with their priorities, and it got canceled. So I think other trail type projects are being canceled, other parts of the country. But I think other, projects under RAISE are going to go forward.
And do you think other trail projects with other funding sources that are more dedicated to trail, like some of the TA programs and stuff, are still moving forward?
Well, again, TA is different because it's formula. RAISE was discretionary. So there is, obviously there's discretion at the department to, continue or not to continue a program. Formula funds are subject to law, and that can't be canceled. TA is included in the current transportation bill and has funding through 26, I believe. But so TA is not in danger of being canceled because, again, that's a specific program dedicated to a specific activity in its formula through the legislation, so it can't be changed. So yeah, TA isn't an issue. I have other issues with TA, but that not with the federal funding on that.
Hey, Mark, this is Judy from the city, because as you know, we're working on another section of the Greenway, but those funds aren't yet obligated by the federal government. Is that something where we should be concerned? What do you think?
Possibly. I'm hopeful not. The fact that they're not obligated is to me a concern because you never know. The one advantage you do have is you're under contract and work is being done on it. So it's not likely that those are in danger, but you can't say never under the current situation. because it is building a trail. And since the funds haven't been obligated, you never know. But like I said, I think you're in better shape only because you're under contract and into design, and work is proceeding. So fingers crossed. But I'm fairly optimistic that that project will continue. But yeah, be diligent. Keep meeting deadlines. Don't let anybody give anybody an excuse for canceling it. We've heard non-performing grants may be looked at. So if you're behind schedule, or if you haven't put in, requests for, reimbursement for, actions that are under contract and funds obligated, that's going to send them a signal that maybe you're not willing to do it. So, just my advice is just, really keep at it to meet deadlines and get things done.
There you go. Mark, were any funds ever distributed from the raise grants?
For us,
Yeah.
no, I had been working with Federal Highway on putting together the final agreement. And Tim Snyder and I had gone back and forth, I don't know, 4 or 5 times on language, clarifications, things like that. And we had gotten to the point where we were both in agreement. It's like, okay, this is good. He was going to send it up to, actually, I think he did send it down to Washington for final, signature. We were that close. All it needed was a signature from the Secretary's office. And I think Federal Highway Connecticut office didn't get notified of the cancellation. We got a direct letter. I think we informed them that the project had been canceled.
Wow.
So no funding had been obligated or had been dispersed yet. So
anyone else have questions? Comments?
I can just say, I can add that, what was sort of interesting about this project and sort of, was enabling us to do a lot more work, was that we were able to use Rec Trails funding as the local match, for a big part of the required match. So Thomaston, Watertown, Waterbury, and Naugatuck all had received prior Rec Trails grant awards for design. So we folded those sections into this larger project, and sort of maybe the downside to that was we had to ask those 4 towns to put those projects on hold while we negotiated the contract and got under contract so that we could actually claim those funds as match. So now, basically a year has elapsed that we asked you all to put projects on hold. So now, we really want to look at how we can move those forward quickly, without the federal funds. So we'll talk a little bit more about some of the Rec Trails implications in a minute, but yeah, that's, it's really unfortunate that we had to put those projects on hold as well. So we understand that was painful, and we want to try to help move those forward now.
Well, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So we'll just have to keep plugging away with what we do have for now. So
yeah. And to Aaron's point, it's again, the towns were willing to, delay their projects for the better good. They saw the advantage of putting everything together and doing everything as one single project. So we thank them for their willingness to do that. It's very unfortunate that, their not sacrifice, but their willingness to delay, didn't, amount to anything. So but we do appreciate the working with and the cooperation we did receive from the 4 towns.
good point. And I think that's been a theme since this group started. Everybody's been willing to try and move this ahead.
Yeah.
You can never expect this is all going to go in a straight line. It never does. So just keep plugging away at it a little bit at a time. All right, let's move on to the Connecticut Deep Recreation Trails Program. Who's going to handle that?
I see Kim on the line. Kim, I don't know if you want to give a quick update on the program and all of that, and then we can talk through some of the projects that we're aware of anyway that are likely going to be applied for.
Absolutely. So as many likely know on this call, our recreational trail grant round is open. The closing date is December 18th. We did hold a overview webinar on, I think it was October 16th. And we do have a recording of that if anyone missed it and wanted any additional information. Overall, the application has really stayed the same to the application in the past round. Something that's a little different this round is that the funds for recreational trails have not been officially allocated by the bond commission. So in past rounds, the bond commission has added our recreational trail grant funding to, it's been added to the agenda of the bond commission, accepted. So when you see our announcement, you would see that we had, a specific amount to allocated to the program. At this time, we have not yet made it on the bond commission agenda. There has been consistent requests from DEP to be added to the agenda, but within the last few bond meetings, it has not made it to agenda items. So just something to take into mind as we consider what we need to move this forward. We are proceeding essentially with a preemptive round. So all applications will be accepted, reviewed, scored, reviewed in more detail by the subcommittee of the Recreational Trail the Greenways Council. So we have a subcommittee that advises awards based within that group. And we are proceeding. We anticipate the time frame for review of the applications and short list provided to the Greenways Council within the Greenways Council's March meeting. So we'll review between January and February and have an identified list of short list of what we recommend, the subcommittee recommends for funding. So hopefully, crossing our fingers that we have a bond commission meeting, committee meeting between that time frame and funds are put on that. Worst case scenario, we have our list and that would go be added to the request to be added to a bond committee meeting for allocation of those awards specifically. So if anyone has any questions, I do hold office hours every Friday. They've actually been very well attended this round. So between 11:30 and 12:30 on Friday, there's standing office hours that are right on this website that the snapshot is showing. You can go around our story map and find the link to our office hours. And you also are more than welcome to send me any questions that you may have via email. So I'm getting a lot of inquiries that way too. Mark, I see your hands raised.
Yeah, I just, not to put you on the spot, or just sort of my curiosity, do you get any sense of why it hasn't been put on the bond agenda? Usually
I've asked extensively,
Yeah.
and even our leadership hasn't had a response. What we do know, what I know, from the process that I can give you information on is essentially this request goes through our agency. So it's made it all the way through the commissioner's office. It is the request that's going to OPM. OPM sets the agenda. So we have not gotten any direct feedback as to why this hasn't been added. We would love that answer as well.
No, 'cause I mean, just been doing this a lot of years. I know that usually, if everybody's supportive of a program, it's almost pro forma that goes on to the bond agenda and it gets approved.
Yep.
When it doesn't get on, it sort of raises a little bit of, okay, is there somebody opposed to this funding that we,
don't know. Yeah. And I will say, it's within the budget. So we are actually budget items, which are, it's kind of a higher level of certainty that there should be allocation because this has been voted on by the entire legislature in order to pass the budget. So, that made us feel more confident, and the commissioner's office continues to feel confident that this should move forward. But yeah, if people get some feedback on that, that would be great if you could inform our program too.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, and let's move on and see, where do we stand with this group? How many applications will be submitted? Aaron, you want to talk about that at all and what
So
we need to endorse or?
I've received either interest or a summary from a few related applications. So right now I've got Watertown, Derby, Seymour, and Thomaston are considering applications. Maybe we can go one by one through those to talk about like what they are, and in the past we've sort of reached consensus amongst this group to author support letters. So we can do that, or you can leave it up to the co-chairs to determine whether or not it's an appropriate support. So that's up to the group. We also have an application going in that WestCog is going to submit on a trail study that we've discussed here before, so we can talk through that as well. But so I see people here from Watertown, Derby, and Seymour. Maybe we start with those three.
And Derby is out. They're not going to submit.
Derby's not going to submit. Okay.
No.
Well, we can take that one off the list. Watertown?
Yeah, I can address that, Aaron. Hello again, everybody. As I think most of the committee knows, this is a 2.4-mile stretch of the Greenway between Frostbridge Road and Thomaston, Branch Brook Town Line Bridge Crossing. Thomaston's project has been held up in DOT because there's not an outlet for it until this gets designed. They won't be able to build their section. This is a very scenic, section along the river. The southern half parallels the Naugatuck Railroad. The northern half has some evidence trolley abutments and other scenic overlooks. And we've addressed the site basically travels over the Waterbury Bureau of Water right away with one of their two main feeder lines, and they've been all in favor of this because this will open up access over a rough trail that they have right now to be paved and be accessible for their maintenance. So this is something we're just looking. We were successful in 2023 with the grant of just under $300,000. In 2024 we were rejected. I don't know if we were on the short list, just didn't make the final, and we're hoping to apply next month and hope get the additional funding we need because the initial funding is just not adequate for this length of trail. And we're hoping for the committee's endorsement for our application.
And this is one of the sections that the raise funding was going to supplement and allow the town to design it in full. And I think there's just, it's sort of a complicated section. It's a long section, and I think they just, they need a little bit more funding to get over that.
Right.
And Aaron has also, well, I know Aaron and I had talked about it. I know we had completed the design for the Thomaston section that would meet this thing, as well as the design of the bridge over the new bridge over the Branch Brook. You were going to include updating those design plans as part of this as well, right?
Correct. I mean, there is a design for that bridge. It's been in place for some years now. But
right.
yeah.
And so we just need to update it. So I know Aaron and I had talked about maybe, talking to you guys about rolling that into it so that those plans can get updated, to current cost estimates, current standards and things like that. So, okay, that was going to be included.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And there is construction funding allocated through LOTSIP for the Watertown section and the Thomaston section. So the design on the Thomaston section is going to sort of unlock the construction funding for both of those sections. So it's sort of this is a key piece of that section of Greenway.
Okay. Who's gonna talk about Seymour? Kurt Miller, I see you there. Are you gonna address that?
Actually, I think Brian Sirowich is gonna.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so this is kind of it's not a new project, but something we're dusting off, but we're gonna possibly piggyback with some of the work that's going on with Kinneytown Dam. And before I get started, the town still has to consider this project further. The 20% match is an issue, and we just went through a budget process. But that being said, if I could share my screen real quick, Aaron. If not, I can just describe it.
Stop sharing. I think Desiree might have to give you
Yeah, give me 1 second.
permission.
Okay, try now.
There we go. I think I have it. Can everyone see that real quick?
Not yet.
Nope. Oh,
There we go.
There we go. Thank you. Yeah, so you can see there in the dark blue, that's our project area. It's approximately 2 miles. In the dark blue little strip there in the downtown section is what we already have. And the light blue and the green would what we would be proposing a design for. It would connect at the pump station project on I think that's Derby Ave. Run alongside the river. There are some obstacles we'd have to deal with. There's some residential, but there's also some town-owned property there. You can see there's a cemetery and then our community center right there where the green intersects along, I think that's the Bank Street Bridge or Pine Street, I forget which one. And then it would run along 313 and connect to Route 67. So it's a nice little loop, 2 miles, and ideally down the road, it'll connect to that northern portion as well, once we get a little further along there.
Any questions?
Can add that the Kinneytown project is designing the section that ends at the pump station on Derby Avenue. So this design would pick up where that project is leaving off.
Okay, we're gonna talk about that one later on in the agenda as well. So.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. Thank you.
So we have two applications going forward that are looking for support letters, and I think we've always been very supportive of these applications. So I'd ask for a motion to write the letters.
We have two more, Jack. One, yeah, one from Thomaston.
I'm sorry.
Very similar to Watertown, where they had some funding from Rec Trails a couple years ago to design a piece of their trail. We were going to supplement that with the raise funding, and now with the raise funding gone, we're looking at a way to actually increase the amount of Rec Trails for the design to use that as match on a TA funded project. So they were awarded a little over $3 million to construct a section of trail between Watertown Road and Elm Street. There have been issues trying to come up with the local match on that project because it is a big lift. The town has committed some funding, and we're hoping to use the Rec Trails to sort of bridge that gap so that design and construction could move forward. So it's another one where the Rec Trails funding will really be unlocking the construction funding and put shovels in the ground.
What's the total distance of this one?
Oh, it's a little over a mile. And it'll actually create a loop. So the town's also working on a community connectivity grant to construct sidewalks along South Main Street. So with those sidewalks, this would create a loop, like a downtown loop, and connect into the downtown. And then the other project, the NVCOGCT project, which we have supported in the past, or this group supported in the past. It's a study to look at an alignment for a multi-use trail linking the Empire State Trail in western or eastern New York with the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail. So crossing over the Naugatuck River Greenway and connecting to it along the way. And it's following the Maybrick rail line, which is what the Larkin Bridle Trail is on right now, and on a piece of that, and it went all the way through Danbury. So they're looking at doing a really large sort of routing and feasibility study for that entire section. Rich, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that. I haven't heard any new details about it, but that's where it stood last time we supported it.
Yeah, nothing drastically different this time. So we had talked about, they submitted to Rec Trails once before and then also to TA. And when they submitted to TA, NVCOG had talked about covering half of the match cost on it. We did talk again about that this time, and I think what we would end up doing is actually doing a significant amount of the work in-house here at NVCOG to cover both to cover the non-federal share, or the non-state share, but also to just reduce the total cost of getting that work done.
All right, any others? And again, as always, we've been very supportive of these local efforts to get the whole project done. So I'd ask for a motion to provide the support letters as requested.
So moved, Dragonis from Seymour. Just
Okay,
pretend my
do I
hair's
hear
a
a
little.
second? Good job, Kirk.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Seconded from Watertown.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna recuse myself from the vote, just because
Okay.
I'm on the review committee.
Okay, noted. Opposed? Any other abstentions? All right, so Aaron will put that together. He does a fantastic job with those letters, and Rissa, you and I will then sign these and we'll get those off. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, nonprofit discussion. My background, nonprofits, I'm interested in hearing this.
Yeah, let me reshare my screen. There's a couple slides here. So, with the RAISE grant being canceled and, funding being a little bit more uncertain than it has been, we talked around the office, and I know this committee's talked about it in the past, the possibility of starting a 501c3 nonprofit that could work, sort of hand in hand with this committee to, maybe as another tool to try to help fund some of these projects, or help, gain popular support or local support for these projects. I know there's several groups across the state, trail groups, that are 501c3s, and they use them for various different reasons. Kate, transportation planner here, knows a lot more about this stuff than I do, so I'm going to ask her to sort of take it over and talk a little bit about it, and then I'm hoping this leads to a discussion amongst this group about ways to move forward if we all want to move forward.
All right. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, we can go to the next slide.
All right.
So my name is Kate Pipa, and I am a transportation planner here at NVCOG. First, I wanted to kind of highlight the high level pros and cons of what it would mean to become a nonprofit in support of the Naugatuck River Greenway. Then we can talk a bit more about some of the other groups around the state. And then finally, I want to share a case study of the Hop River Trail Alliance, which formed in 2022. And just also want to share that the nonprofit space is near and dear to my heart. My first part of my career, I spent about 10 years in the nonprofit space. It definitely started in high school when I was a youth leader with the Valley United Way. under Jack Walsh's leadership and with Pat Tarasovic. And then I worked at Spooner House as a development officer for roughly 3 years in Shelton, before going on to Massaro Community Farm and then the Bridgeport Regional Business Council. So I've worked with a lot of groups that are volunteers, that are donors, that really lift up and share the vision and goals and ability to reach what we set out to do via the nonprofit route. And I think there is some really exciting activations that can happen when you do have that support from the grassroots level. So quickly, some of the pros from my point of view, you can receive donations. They could be tax deductible. So this allows you to potentially take to set up and memberships, so folks can start supporting you annually. That helps build the a groundswell and ground support of supporters of your mission that you can potentially activate for future volunteers, board members, other projects around the corridor. It'll also allow you to apply to community foundations. We have very strong community foundations in this area, some of the family foundations as well that do want to support this type of work. I know there's some banks that also have some great nonprofits or foundations that what I can see also supporting our mission. And then again, there's other types of grants that nonprofits allow you to unlock. The community engagement piece, I know that this could potentially be a pathway for allowing the community to take more ownership and participation in this project. I do want to caveat that I know that NRG is still being built out, and a lot of the groups that exist in the state are supporting trails that are already created. So they're not necessarily trying to get the pieces together, but they're supporting the maintenance. But when you do engage the community, you build advocacy, you build visibility, you build more local buy-in and support for a project like this, which again, think just feeds into supporting being able to unlock more funding as well. Again, with a nonprofit, it could also increase the visibility of the NRG. I think it could allow for more tabling in community regards, as well as build more of a local identity for it. So I think by becoming a nonprofit, each town or segment can potentially take on more of a role in supporting what the Greenway could be. To just talk a bit more about some of the cons, obviously it takes management to facilitate a board of directors, to facilitate meetings, visibility in the community. There is some financial money to become a 501c3 and maintain the administration of a nonprofit year after year. There's required reporting and continued stewardship. I think if you are going to start a nonprofit, you don't want to start and then not have a plan to maintain those volunteers, the board of directors, your annual meeting, things like that. So you really do want to be conscious when you are starting what that short, medium, and long-term plan looks like. We can go to the next slide. I want to mention that if we don't become a specific 501c3 just for the NRG, there is the ability to become a friends of group, which is like a more loose formation of people that are supporting an initiative. Maybe it doesn't have that legal recognition, but you still maybe get together to do trail cleanups or other types of support. Or you can potentially look for a fiscal sponsor that aligns with your mission and have them be the underwriter potentially for when you apply to grants and such, but you're not taking on your own initiative separate. So, okay, so I just wanted to mention there are several groups around the state that I've come in contact with, and I've noticed that them around the state. They're in different iterations of how long they've been around and how they're organized. The first one is the Shoreline Greenway Trail, which runs along the coast. I think it's, I can't remember if it's Madison Guilford, Branford,
I think it's all
Some-
those.
It is,
into New
yes.
Haven.
all those, all the way, and now they're looking to expand to New Haven. But with this, they have a board of directors who they've been very strategic about finding representatives from each of the municipalities that they work in, and now they are looking to expand to New Haven and have additional presence and support there. Plus, they have at-large members. They seem to take in about $60,000 to $200,000 with annual revenue. This is from donations. I think they've also applied for some grants, and right now they have about $500,000 in assets. So the main things that they do is that I found very encouraging is that they have many community partnerships. A lot of the garden groups in towns, they might have their own land trust, even police departments, scouting, uh, things like that. You can look on their website and their partnerships are very illustrious. And I think a lot of those partnerships translate into volunteer projects, fundraisers, maintaining the trails in the specific towns. And then something else that I found interesting is that every Saturday they rotate. Every first Saturday of the month, each segment from the trail, a different municipality will do some event. So maybe they'll walk a trail from point A to point B, or maybe they'll have a pollinator pathway program, things like that. And they kind of share and rotate throughout the year which municipality is in charge. And it's led by like the board member from that town and the group. So not when I say municipality, I'm not meaning like the actual town. It's the groups within the town. And they also have an annual meeting so they can kind of share in the support and the wins of and what's ahead for the year. The Farmington Valley, the Farmington Canal Trail, I know it has many different names. The two groups that I noted were the Farmington Canal Rail to Trail Association, which it covers the southern portion. So Southington, Cheshire, Hampden, and New Haven. And then there's a group for the northern portion, which is called the Farmington Valley Trails Council. And they are covering Suffield, Granby, East Granby, Simsbury, Avon, Farmington, Canton, Burlington, and Plainville. They are both organized as nonprofits. They've been around. Started in the late 80s, early 90s for both of the groups. They have board members from each of the towns that their trail goes through in their respective nonprofits, and they have advisors. They do a call for memberships, but they definitely do not have a large budget like the other two organizations. These groups are really volunteer driven, maintaining the trail because as we know, the Farmington Canal Trail is almost complete through Connecticut. So they aren't necessarily pushing to build more. They are doing a lot of the support now that the trail has been built. They have adopt-a-miles that community groups can adopt and maintain. Volunteers can maintain the kiosks. They have volunteers helping with the trail counters, which is a great way to get people involved with that aspect. Enhancing the trails. They have ambassadors, which is really neat. So folks that will go out in the community and be a point person for the trail. They have repair station maintainers and then special committees that could be, I think there's an education committee. There's 3 committees. So they've decided that they needed some task force to do specific work and that they have volunteers willing to do that work. They have monthly meetings, also have a newsletter. They sometimes lead trail rides and they sell apparel. So just some other ways to get the name out there, create some revenue, remain connected, and showcase the trail through those trail rides. And then next is the Friends of the Norwalk River Valley Trail. They're relatively new and they are also still constructing their route from Danbury to Norwalk. It's a 30-mile trail that was, I guess, the study was finalized in 2012, so their vision has been I guess, growing from that time, though the first segments were actually part of the Norwalk Harbor Loop Trail, which was part of their plan for the Norwalk Harbor and stewarding the area around the water. So that those pieces that were built by Norwalk are incorporated into the longer trail. They are interesting because I put here that in 2016 that there was TAP transportation alternative funding and then rec trails funding with additional state grants. That has not been applied for by the nonprofit specifically, but more of the municipalities like Norwalk and the others along the route. And I believe WestCog has applied for some funding too. So I just put it there to show that they're a similar organization to ours and that the larger funding to complete portions of the trail have come through other entities, but now that they do take in revenue from donations and smaller grants from individuals and organizations. They also have a paid executive director, and now similarly have volunteers that can steward projects. They have actually an online portal that you can sign up and look at what's available. They have event guides who can lead walks and educational programs. They offer abilities to fundraise and do outreach. They table at events, and that they do maintain a newsletter, and their meetings are monthly and they are open to the public. Okay, and then next slide. I just want to acknowledge the Hop River Trail Alliance. I found out about them at the Trail Symposium back in October. They were just founded in 2022, and I appreciated their presentation because they walk through how they started, and this is pretty much the playbook of what they did. There was a handful of really concerned individuals who noticed that there wasn't a group maintaining the trail and there was no plan for long-term maintenance or stewardship. They noticed that there was lack of signage and some amenities, and they wanted to do something about it. So they did a preliminary needs assessment, and they found that these issues weren't being addressed, so they wanted to form an entity. They identified clear objectives. They wanted to be advocates for the trail, have improved communication and collaboration amongst the towns along the trail. There's 7 towns: Wyndham, Columbia, Coventry, Andover, Bolton, Vernon, and Manchester, which it's a 20-mile trail. And they also want to facilitate collaboration between the towns and with the state. I appreciate what they did is that they knew that if they started, they really needed a project to work together on to kind of start out the gate with and have a small win. So they identified the wayfinding and signage. I believe they did apply for a Rec Trails grant to get support for that. They also crafted their mission statement, which was dedicated to the care and promotion of the Hop River State Park Trail for transportation, recreation, and economic development. They recognize all 3 of those things. And their organizational structure I also thought was interesting. They have their 4 officers who are volunteers, and then their board of directors is comprised of 1 representative that is appointed from each town. So they received buy-in from the municipality. The municipality appointed the person that they thought was the most suitable to hold that role. And then they also had alternates, sorry. And then they also have advisory liaisons with key departments like Deep Parks Division, the East Coast Greenway, and they mentioned that they wanted a DOT liaison. I don't know if they secured one yet. So they really are making the connections, I think, where it matters at all levels. They created their bylaws and then they incorporated. So they said it was $375, and then insurance was $1,000, and they were able to get it through the League of American Bicyclists, and they also started a bank account. So they made it seem easy. I think it probably isn't that difficult. And now, after they've been around for a few years, they were able to reflect on their lessons learned. They really said that it started with a group of individuals that were wanting this vision. They wanted to make it happen. They knew that they had to engage with decision makers in the process, and Something that I think they brought up is that it's a state park, so it closes at sunset. So as far as working through some of the issues of making it a transportation corridor versus a recreation area, that is something that was a challenge for them. But they do see the value now in having all these stakeholders at the table. And I think they mentioned another challenge was balancing doing outreach events versus working on like the creating the trail to the best it could be. So I think that's a balance that one would have when you have limited time and resources, especially if you are a volunteer-run organization. So I appreciate you letting me talk a bit more about this, and now I think we can talk a bit more about what we see for the NRG.
All right, any
Thank you.
thoughts? I think it's very ambitious. I think it's a real challenge. Especially since we're not done yet, but Rissa, you have your hand up?
I do. So, Kate, thank you so much. That was a great presentation. I think it's a lot of information, and I think that this is the direction that we probably want to start looking at. My question, and I think that this is probably maybe maybe an offline conversation a small group of us can have and like start to think about the details of it. But I'm as you're talking, I'm reminded of our friend John Monroe when I was talking to him about national heritage areas, and the funding was cut from them, and we were talking about, can we still get that designation? And he said there's nothing stopping us from acting like one if we want to be one without that formal designation or without that stamp of approval. And I'm wondering if we can take that logic and apply it here. If we want to go down the road to become a nonprofit or a friends group, building those partnerships and doing all of those, things that you were talking about that I think is where we should be as a committee, can we start to do that without becoming an official nonprofit? Can we do it within the structure that we have? And I think if we can start to do it within the structure that we have, we can start to build those partnerships. We can start to show value so that when we are ready to become that nonprofit and we need money, we can say, this is what you're paying for. Here's the value. Here's the benefit. And we can get that to support the organization. I think it's just a little too soon for us to do that. But I think we have the bones of it. And I think if we want to start to expand what we do as a committee and get that buy-in from the communities and build those partnerships and start to expand more than just development, we should talk about that. And how do we do that so that in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, we're ready to become that nonprofit. So I do appreciate this conversation, and I appreciate your presentation because I think it makes us think about where do we want to be and how do we want to get there. And I'll open it up to others' thoughts and comments, but if there's interest, I would be happy to be part of a smaller group that kind of discusses the details of how we get to this place and what that plan would be long term.
And I think you hit it on the head. I mean, we're not going to have the time to have that formal discussion at this meeting, but if there's a smaller subgroup that wants to get together to start talking about it and come back with both questions and answers, I think we can make some progress. But and once every quarter meeting, we can't get it done in one of these meetings. Those are my feelings. And I've been involved with nonprofits, as Kate said, forever. And most nonprofits start with somebody that's got an idea or a passion. And it's just a question, can you get others to support that? Even for this committee, I think Aaron can address the challenges to keep all the cities involved. But, it is nice to talk about the long term when this trail finally is completed. What happens then? So any other thoughts?
Kim has
Well,
her hand
let me
up.
suggest this then. Rissa's already said she's interested. Kate is obviously interested. I would ask anyone that's interested in this to contact probably Kate first, as quickly as possible to see if we have people that are interested in doing this and see if we can get something formed that way. Because again, at a quarterly meeting, you just can't get that kind of thing done at a quarterly meeting.
Jack, I see Kim has her hand up too.
Yep.
Okay, let's see, yeah, Kim.
Yeah, I just wanted to, Kate, great job putting all this information together. It is a lot, and these are all organizations through our Connecticut Greenways program, Greenways and Trails program we work closely with. What I do want to think about with the information you shared is I see kind of a typology that is significant between the organizations that you were looking at. In particular, the Hop River Trail Alliance and the Farmington Valley Trail Council. Both are organizations formed around established infrastructure that tends to have a land manager / owner that is a state agency. So for Farmington Heritage, it's CTDOT. For Hop River, it's DEEP. And I would challenge that those organizations have a bit different objective as opposed to organizations like the Shoreline Greenway and the Norwalk River Valley. So I would personally see what may be, and again, can't say it for you, this is the team that should think about that, but what may be similar alignment for the Naugatuck River Greenway may be more closely related to the Shoreline Greenway or Norwalk River as opposed to the other two. So the way that this is laid out, and I was very active both in the development of the Hop River State Park Trail Alliance, as well as the forming Airline State Park Trail Alliance. Those are one of the key factors is getting clear and concise coordination between the municipalities and the landowners, land managers in the state. So it's a little bit different. And that's I just wanted to lay that out. More than happy. I think it would be great, if we had an opportunity to meet offline and I can lend some perspective on it too. But great job pulling all this information together. And I think there are a range of benefits. I think it's great for this group to think through this approach overall.
All right, so with that, again, I'll ask the people contact Kate to kind of pull this together and then come back to us at the next meeting and give us some advice. So, okay, let's move on because we're falling a little bit behind them. I know I have to deliver dictionaries to schools today. So, Waterbury Phase 2 raise, Judy.
Good morning, everyone. Picking up on what Mark was saying, the city is currently meeting their deadlines and reporting with FHWA. There are, as far as the Greenway component, one of the RAISE project, there are schedule and budget concerns based upon the challenges with obtaining some right-of-way access to some complicated properties, but we are working on that. Everything is, as you know, incremental and somewhat slow, but we are on track and we are on pace to meet all of our deadlines. A little bit of good, happy news. We recently had some public art installed at our Greenway Park, Platt Park. We had a relationship with some artists from Italy that installed some public art several years ago in the city in the style of Calder. And there's a very large metal piece that was installed. It's called Essential, which is, the project was Watermarks. So it was Essential, and it's this beautiful piece of sculpture, very large on the edge, sort of a gateway to South Main Street and the gateway to our Greenway Park and our Greenway Walk. So if anyone gets a chance to drive by it, it really is, it's a nice thing. So that's all I have.
Would you be able to share those photos and have
I
me
sure
send-
will. I'll send some
Great.
photos so you could all take a look at them and meet the artists. They were lovely. So they also installed a piece at our new pool, the Hamilton Park pool, which is, I'll send some pictures of that too. So it really was a great, very quick sort of a thing that came up, and it was installed on Halloween. So it's very pretty. So I'll send some pics.
Great, thanks, Judy. All right, Kenny Town, Aaron, you gonna handle that one?
Sure. So we've talked about this a little bit in the past. We have a Rec Trails grant to design the section of Greenway Trail that is on Kinneytown Dam property. So a couple weeks ago, the Connecticut Brownfield Land Bank took ownership of the dam and the property that it sits on. And the plan now is to design the deconstruction and removal of the dam and the restoration of the river corridor in that area. So we sort of folded the design of the trail into the design of the dam removal. So it is in the scope for GEI, who's the big engineering company that's doing the dam removal design. They've hired a sub-consultant, Stimson Landscape Architects, to sort of think about the Greenway Trail. And so Stimson, some people from Stimson and some folks from GEI and NVCOG and Save the Sound, we all walked the entire corridor, or a good portion of the corridor. I think it was at the end of August, beginning of September, just to sort of get the lay of the land, to understand, what is out there already that can be used to support the trail, and look at all of there's a bunch of obstacles as well that we're going to have to overcome to route the trail. So they've sort of brainstormed some ideas at this point. I think, maybe for the next meeting, it might be a good time to have them come and talk to this group and sort of talk through some of those things. But at this point, they're really just like, here, this is a possibility, and, bouncing ideas around between them and GEI's engineers to see what is and is not even possible out there. What the site is going to look like when the dam is removed is still a big question. One of the big issues is there's a lot of sediment behind the dam that's going to have to be dealt with. Sort of the running assumption at this point is that we're going to have to move a lot of that contaminated sediment into Coe Pond, which is part of the dam facility. It's also very contaminated, just like the sediment that's behind the dam. So the idea, and you can see it in the lower left of the image at the bottom there, the idea is that, Coe Pond is no longer going to be a pond. It might be a wetland area. It might be dry. We don't know at this point. But this is a concept that I just wanted to share quickly, that it's sort of the more exciting concept that they came up with, where the trail is going to go from North 4th Street in Ansonia through Coe Pond, or around Coe Pond. So there's a dam on the west side, or the top there, where right now it's.
Could you share your screen?
Sorry, am I not sharing my screen?
It's up there.
I see it.
Maybe I don't.
But in this concept, it basically follows the dam and the canal, and there's a separate trail through what may be a sort of a wetland park where Coe Pond is today, and then follow the canal that connects to Kinneytown Dam. And in this concept, they have, if the entire dam doesn't need to be removed, maybe we can use portions of it as footings for a bridge, and having the bridge right where having a bridge over the river right where the dam is today, which might be a really neat sort of cultural feature of the trail. And then in this concept, it basically follows between Route 8 and the river all the way up to Derby Avenue. So they developed a few of these concepts, and it's really just a way to get the designers of the dam removal thinking about the trail early on in the project as well, so that as they're working through, what the site can look like, they're thinking about, well, is one of these options better for the trail, so that, we don't create more obstacles for ourselves as we remove the dam. So that's where we are now. Like I said, I think, we'll likely be ready for the next meeting to have the designers come and talk to this group, and and maybe bounce some concepts around at that point. We are planning on a big public meeting and workshop, likely in January or February, to bring some of these ideas and the dam removal ideas to the public, and have the public offer some comments at that point. So happy to take any questions, but it is moving along, and it's sort of exciting to see this stuff like on paper, even if it's just a sketch. So
And
pretty
you
excited.
have been holding public meetings all along. You've kept the public informed, which is really important.
Yep, we have one next week on Wednesday. It's going to be a virtual one this time. The last meeting, we focused a lot on the Naugatuck River Greenway and how it fits into this overall plan. So we had been getting quite a few questions from the public about the trail and how it was being incorporated. So we really focused on that at the last meeting, and I think we got a lot of positive comments about it too.
And how about the Ansonia Trail to Nolan Field? Now that Nolan Field is pretty much done.
See anyone here from Ansonia?
I don't think so.
Is Mark Jewell still on the line? He might.
And if Curtis here, he still might know something about that, but I don't think he's on.
We lost some people. Okay. We can.
Because I mean, they don't have a formal path yet, do they? They've talked about different areas.
So they completed their routing study last year, and they did submit and were approved for TA funding.
Okay.
For construction, but or it's a design and construction, but I'm not sure where that process is. I have not heard recently on that.
Okay. All right, any others? Project updates? Let's move on to the micro grant program then. Aaron, is that you?
Rich.
Yeah, I can talk
okay.
about this one. So excuse me, I don't know if everybody saw Chris left a note in the chat that he had to hop off. But some, I guess, good or bad news, depending on how you look at it. We all of the department's funding for this year, what we carried over from last year, was spent so far this year. So there will not be a fourth quarter solicitation this year. They have been funded for another 750,000 for next year. And so it looks like they're going to be talking about some of the program guidelines now that there's a bit more interest and awareness around it. We here in our region did very well with this program, and so we may have shaken them up a little bit in the way they administer the program. But we expect sometime at the end of the first quarter of the next calendar year will be the next round of awards.
And what are the amounts that you can apply for under that?
It is up to 5,000.
Up to 5,000. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. How about build?
Yeah, I know there was a solicitation out for build. I think there's obviously a lot less focus on multimodal or bike ped sort of things. Rich, I'm not sure. Do you know when that deadline was for that? I'm not aware of any applications going in our region.
Yeah, I don't know offhand, but I believe it just closed. We don't. I don't believe any were submitted out of our region. There is so for this round, I think there's a lot of concern about the viability of projects from Connecticut against some of these discretionary programs or now competitive programs at the federal level. But there is one more year of this program authorized under IJA, and so we anticipate at least one more solicitation sometime around this time next year.
And just remember, build is the new raise. I mean, yes. So build is just a continuation of raise. They just renamed it.
Yeah, it was Tiger, build, raise, and then build again.
But that's where a lot of money is, so got to pay attention to that one. So.
Yeah, we can get at it.
Yeah, and keep it once you get it.
That's the yeah.
All right. Any other funding issues to bring up? Other opportunities anyone's aware of? Okay, how about events and public outreach opportunities?
So we did attend the symposium in October, which was great. NVCOGCT sponsored a table. So we featured the Naugatuck River Greenway. A lot of sympathy for the Rays issue. I heard, and Mark staffed the table most of the day. Mark, I don't know if you have any takeaways that you want to share.
No, again, we didn't get a lot of people stopping by to talk about the trail project itself. It was more, we had heard about the Rays project being canceled, and yeah, just giving some, you know, I don't want to call it sympathy, but yeah, some just comments that, you know, it was unfortunate the program or the project was canceled. But, you know, we had information out there. Some people did look at some of the reports we had. You know, again, the intent of the table was just to highlight, you know, our work on the Greenway and to sort of answer anybody's questions regarding it. But like I said, it was mostly a discussion about Rays.
Okay.
We also featured some of the other active transportation work that our agency's doing, like our active transportation plan, some of the other smaller projects we've been working on as well.
I would urge everybody go take a look at the NVCOG site. There's a lot of valuable information about all the work that they do in the community. I don't think most people around the state pay any attention to that, but you know, when it comes to infrastructure, that's where you got to look first in our area. I would think so. Good work by everyone involved, I think, up there. So
I just want to say we have all of this material. So if you guys are having an event in your town, or you know, we can share the material. If you want us to come table at something, you know, let us know. We can try to be available.
okay, Jerry's got his hand up.
Yeah, I just want to report on our Steelbrook Greenway. It's going out to bid within the next week. It's 4,000 linear feet. There's one pedestrian bridge that goes over the Steelbrook. There's a parking lot, and there's also flashing beacons to get you across French Street. With this, it'll bring about close to 2 miles to Link Town Hall, and about 2 miles to the south, and it parallels Main Street by about a quarter mile off of Main Street.
Oh, it's always good news when you're out to bid. That means it's definitely going to happen. Well, almost definitely going to happen. So congratulations. And if you look back in the chat, there was also a posting that the contract was assigned for the design of the Greenfield trail section in Naugatuck. So another bit of good news. All right, the proposed meeting schedule for next year, you can see February 12th, February 11th, May 13th, August 12th, November 11th.
I found out after I sent this, I realized November 11th next year is obviously
Veterans Day.
So we'll have to change that. Any suggestion going a week earlier or later? I don't know what works for folks. We could do it on a Thursday, maybe. I don't know.
I would say keep it on Wednesday, and either the week before or week after, either would, at this point, a year away would work for me.
I'd say a week earlier rather than a week later, getting close to the holidays. So
okay, I will put it on a week earlier. So okay.
All right. With that, a motion to adjourn. Excuse me, I've got a bad cough. You can't get rid of it. Motion to adjourn be in order.
So moved.
Or a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we're adjourned at 10:16. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.